Good afternoon. My name is Tim Schumacher. I'm the chairman and co-founder of Eyeo, the company behind Adblock Plus. And I'd like to first talk a little bit about disruption. It's a word we've probably heard like 1,000 times here today. It's actually the motto of this conference. It's the motto of many conferences. But you know what? There's one really interesting thing about disruption. We celebrate disruption. For example, when it comes to Uber, the showdown yesterday between Uber and Daimler. The media has almost a little bit of schadenfreude with the way Uber breaks up monopolies and really does the customers a service. If we look at WhatsApp, kind of what SMS was as a cash generation machine, I think over 100 billion in revenues a couple years ago for the telco operators worldwide. And I think we all don't have that many pity. And as users, we enjoy WhatsApp because they solved a fundamental pain. And the media, I think, cherish that as well as advocates of the user. But here's the interesting thing with disruption. As soon as someone disrupts me as the company, as a media company, if someone starts disrupting me, well, I see that actually very different. Disruption is not the cool thing which it is with Uber or with WhatsApp. And suddenly, it's something actually very bad. And what's about the user experience with online media? It is ripe for disruption. It's a mixture of, in many cases, and I'm not trying to overgeneralize it. There's a lot of very good media, but there has been a tendency in the last years, because of the ad-financed model, to go for clickbaits, to go for a lot of annoying ads, combination of aggressive pop-ups, banners, videos. It's not a user experience people want, and that's where we come in. We run Adblock Plus, which is the most popular ad blocker in the world. Over 100 million users are actively using us. We've had over 1 billion downloads over the years. So there's a clear call to action from users that they don't like the current status of the online advertising market. And the media, in some cases, works with us, but in most cases, they do the same thing what the taxi companies did to Uber or what the telcos did to WhatsApp or Skype. They sue. Big question, of course, will this prevail, or is that the right way to counter disruption? We don't think so. What we actually think and what we stand for, and kind of what I want to use those very few minutes I have here, is actually counter some of those misperceptions which often the media likes to portray about us and show what we really stand for with our little product and our little company which tries to disrupt this billion-dollar industry. What we like to be, and it's a long way to go, because we come from being an ad blocker, so of course we understand that this is not the position where you usually start a compromise, but what we want to be is we want to be a trusted agent that balances the user's wish of hassle-free internet with a publisher's need to monetize quality content. Because whenever there's an ecosystem, there are two sides of the story. There's always, in any marketplace setting, there is a user, for example, or a publisher, and it's the same thing here. And I think the industry has somewhat lost sight of the user, and we want to correct that. We've built up this, basically, this ability to be the guardians of the users by our original ad blocking product. It has had over 1 billion downloads, over 100 million monthly active users, plus more from partners. And a monthly active user is a very active user. It means essentially their entire internet traffic is filtered through our technology, which is filtering out the ads the user doesn't want to see. We're 100% open source, so everybody can see exactly what happens. The interesting thing is all the filtering is done locally on the computer of the user. Not a single piece of data is sent back, and thus done in a completely privacy way. We're a small team. As said, we're kind of fighting a David versus Goliath fight, a team of 60 quite profitable despite a bunch of lawsuits. We've had a quite a good ride in terms of user adoption, using all the browsers over the course of the year, starting off with Firefox, that's where we originally come from, and going into basically mobile over the last couple of years, where ad blocking is starting to become a big phenomenon. Now, by now, you'll ask, obviously, where's your compromise? And you'll ask kind of how you make money, and I'd like to take the last couple of minutes to explain that. So our secret sauce to ad blocking, and what we really believe in, and the first part of our compromise, is acceptable ads. We started off as an ad blocker done by developers who just technically took up the challenge to block all ads. We've, over the years, discovered that people really don't have a problem with advertising per se, they have a problem with bad advertising. And so over the years, we did a lot of studies, and that just is one as an example, where we looked at what is actually the level of disruption of advertising. And that varies wildly. We did that study together with Ipsos, multiple countries, thousands of participants, and it's very clear across the world, people hate big banners. People obviously hate pop-ups, but they also hate video ads. And then suddenly, kind of going into some other things, native ads, small text ads, non-animated banners, people are surprisingly fine with it. So advertising per se is not the problem, bad advertising is. And there are multiple factors, they're all part of acceptable ads. The placement is an issue. People don't want to be interrupted. They read something, they don't want to have their reading interrupted by a wrong placement. Size is an issue. Obviously, you want to have a good balance between content and advertising. And last but not least, should be clear legally, but it's actually not in all parts of the world, but it's very clear, and thus part of the acceptable ads criteria. The distinction that it's labeled under advertising is a very important part. This is what we call acceptable ads. That's the first part of our compromise. And the idea is that our over 100 million users are voting with their feet, and they're creating an incentive for advertisers to make better advertising. By allowing that advertising, we foster that compromise. We have a second part, which we put kind of on top, and that's an experimental project. It'll grow over the years. It's kind of our little moonshot, is where we want to go at the root of the problem, because advertising actually works well for some parts, but in other parts, we know that it's actually falling a little short, so we need more money than that. And so we have a model, we call that Flatter Plus. We partner with the known company, Flatter. And the idea is that the user pays a very small amount, and it's surprising how little money you need to actually finance the entire content you see on the web every month. It's really just 2 or 3 euros. It's very low. And then by being the agent of the user and looking at the history of what they do, again, completely locally on their computer, nothing gets sent back to us, we distribute the money according to the use of the user. And what we don't do, there are no paywalls, there are no silos. It's basically just distributing money to the content creators which have created content and published content in a non-ad financed way. That's it for me. Those are the two things where we think this is how we can change the way content is financed on the web, make advertising better. My kind of 4 little calls to action, because we're not raising money, which is, I guess, one of the main purposes usually of companies at this conference. If you haven't tried us, please try us as a user. I have yet to know that one person who's ever tried us and then not said, wow, my internet experience is completely different. We best work on laptops and Macs, but also quite well on mobile. Join Acceptable Ads or Flatter Plus if you're a publisher, or likewise if you're an ad network. In many cases, actually, the whitelisting is for free. And yeah, we're also growing the team, headquartered in Cologne. We have an office in Berlin and one in San Francisco. So join our team if you are up for changing the internet and making the internet better. And that's what we really aim for. We want to make the internet better for everyone. And for us, purging bad ads is only a start, but a good start. Thank you.